Morning, Jillian. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you. So, sir, based on the intelligence you've seen about this balloon and the briefing you got yesterday, was its presence here in the United States, as the president said at the State of the Union, a threat to U.S. sovereignty? Or was it, as he told Telemundo yesterday, not really a major breach at all?
Well, I don't see how you can view it as anything other than a threat. What is frustrating to me, I attended that briefing. I fully understand there are certain things that need to remain classified and remain secret. But I think we overclassify way too much information. I think we keep way too many things secret. I believe, truthfully, that one of the advantages America has above all of our global competitors is we are an open society. And I think we ought to be far more open in terms of, in this instance right here, exactly what we know. There was, from my standpoint, there was no reason for that secure briefing. That should have been held as a hearing in front of Congress, the representatives of the American people, where those representatives could ask questions. And every now and again, the people giving the briefing might say, well, Senator or member of Congress, that we should really can't reveal here in open setting. But most of this information ought to be made public, and it should be made public quite a lot sooner.
One of the things we learned, sir, from our Capitol Hill sources yesterday was that some of the parts that they have collected, that the FBI has collected so far, are labeled in English. If it turns out to be the case, as some on Capitol Hill fear that parts of this, particularly the payload, were manufactured in the West by U.S. allies or even here in America, what can the Senate do about that? What options are available to you?
Well, you need the knowledge, but so I actually take those secure briefings seriously, and I don't talk about what I'm told in those settings. But one of the reasons I'm saying these need to be open is one of the reasons they give us those secure briefings is to freeze people like me from being able to talk openly about what I know, so we can actually start discussing what the solutions might be. So, I don't want to confirm or deny anything that was told me in that briefing, but I do want to say that should have been in the public. I really did not hear anything that sensitive in that briefing that I don't think the American public should know. And let's face it, there's all kinds of leaks, and so the American public does know anyway. But now we're all questioning: is this true? Is it not true? What more should we? What more information should we have? So, we have a real problem in this country in terms of the administration not being honest, not being transparent, not being forthright with the American public, and so it's very difficult to understand what is true, what's not true, what is the true reality of the situation, and that's dangerous for our country.
Also, may be difficult to advocate for more information sharing with the public when presidents, current and past, have now been caught red-handed mishandling classified information. Senator, I'm going to get your response on that in a moment, but if you could just stand by, stick with me. I want to bring in Brian Yennis, our correspondent, who's on the ground in South Carolina. Not on the ground, he's at sea. Crews are still working the salvage operation there. He's got some new information this moment. Hi, Brian, what can you tell us?
Hi, Jillian. Well, look, the FBI says that the majority of this spy ship is still underwater. In fact, there are two separate areas that they are searching in the ocean. That's in this area the size of 15 football fields long, 15 football fields wide. The majority of the spy balloon's payload has not yet been recovered, and that's where they believe the majority of the onboard electronics are likely to be found. What they have been able to find are parts of the balloon, wiring, as well as a very limited number of electronics. The FBI has begun decontaminating some of these parts, removing salt and seawater, but so far a, quote, extremely limited amount of evidence has made its way to the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia for analysis. Still, according to two U.S. officials to the AP, talking to the AP, naval divers have recovered potentially high-value equipment, and some balloon debris was intact on the ocean floor 50 feet below. The State Department says it's confident the balloon was manufactured by a Chinese company with a direct relationship with China's military. We have seen more equipment being brought into South Carolina, including unmanned underwater vehicles and sonar equipment. During a congressional hearing yesterday, defense officials said part part of the reason they did not shoot down the spy balloon early on over the Aleutian Islands in Alaska was because recovering the spy balloon would have been more complicated in those waters. Listen.
The water depths offshore, the Aleutians, at 6+ nautical miles, go very quickly from about 150 feet to over 18,000 feet near the Bering Sea. The winter water temperatures in the Bering Sea hover consistently in the low 30s, which would make recovery and salvage operations very dangerous.
Recovery and salvage operations expected to be nearly impossible this weekend with bad weather, but we'll see. Right now they're doing resupply because the water is a little rough underwater for them to do the recovery. Jillian?
Brian Yanis from Myrtle Beach for us. Thank you. Senator Johnson, thanks for standing by. I want to get your reaction to Brian Yanis's reporting there. Specifically, the Defense Department, you heard, testified that they did not shoot this thing down over the Aleutian Islands because the recovery process would have been too dangerous. So instead, the trade-off was to allow it to hover over U.S. airspace for nearly a week. Was the trade-off worth it?
Well, again, without revealing what I heard, I can say that what public reports I've heard, including the one that I just heard, is consistent with what we did here, which again confirms the point I'm making. There's no reason the administration couldn't have had this briefing in public, subject themselves to questions from the representatives of the people. I think they'd actually be doing themselves a service. I think by keeping this stuff all bottled up and not being open and transparent, they're doing themselves a disservice in terms of getting a full explanation out there. Now, maybe some of the questions might be uncomfortable, but I think it would be good to have this information, by and large, in the public domain, and should have been in the public domain a lot earlier.
Well, I have you, sir. I want to make sure I ask you about this. The new subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, they had their first hearing yesterday. Republicans brought witnesses who alleged that President Biden's Justice Department is now